My best friend is dating my abuser and wants me to reconcile with him, so I kicked her out of my home. I blocked my best friend recently. I don't have the typical family structure and have been mostly a loner, except for my best friend, Tammy. After my parents divorced, I met my first boyfriend, Trent. At first, he was charming, but he became controlling and abusive over time, so I left him. I confided in Tammy, who helped keep my whereabouts a secret from Trent. Recently, she visited me and revealed she was back with Trent, saying he had changed and found Jesus. She reached out to my family, insisting I should forgive him. This felt like a massive betrayal. I've tried to write this out for days now, but I keep getting too upset to concentrate, so this might be a bit jumpy. I don't have family in the sense many understand family to be, so I've been pretty much a loner with one exception, my best friend, Tammy. We met in middle school and just became joined at the hip. Things changed a bit in college. My parents forced me into a Christian out-of-state college. Tammy applied and got accepted to the other college in the town, so we both went out there and were roommates for 2 of the years before I met my first ever boyfriend. I will call him Trent. I moved in with him at the end of junior year, and I don't know when it started happening, but he went from charming and affectionate to controlling. I don't wish to upset anyone, so I will hit the pause button and warn you that below are some of the things he did for me to label him abusive. He would put me down and hint he could find someone better, or that if he cheats, it will be my fault since I wasn't this or that enough. It started to get a physical senior year. At first, it was him pushing me out of the way if he was walking by and I was in the path for whatever reason. Then he would slap me in arguments, calling me worthless, a waste of his time and young years, a broken toy no one will love. I didn't have any real self-esteem, so I stayed, thinking I was the problem, and when I called home about it, I was told that the problem was me. I started to make my exit plan the day after I graduated. He had proposed, and I hesitated, and he screamed at me to ask why. Then her swung and punched the wall right next to my head. I fell to the floor in fear, and he tried to comfort me, and basically forced me into sex. When I woke up the next morning, the ring was on my finger, and he forced me again, and later called it makeup sex, saying he forgave me for the way I treated him. That is an extremely short explanation, but there are so many stories of him forcing me into bed, hitting me or threatening to kill me, and more. So I started to make a plan. I found a shelter in the city nearby. I started hiding things in the trunk of my car. I was in the service industry then, and so I would take more shifts whenever I could, and hide my cash tips in a box of tampons in my purse. And I finally was ready and left him. Left my phone. I had a new cheap one and never went back. Tammy knew him and lived near us, but she didn't know about my plan. She messaged me on social media, and I told her what happened, all of what happened. So she played dumb when he came around asking where I was, spinning the story that I was suicidal, and he is calling the police to find me. He never found me. That was years ago. I am now 36, and Tammy is too. Trent is 38. Tammy became a bit religious, but I told her as long as she is happy and safe, I don't care what she leans on in faith. She started to invite me out to her church 4 years ago, and I kept saying no until I very firmly said if she brought it up again, I would just walk out or hang up. I'm not against anyone believing what they want. I just don't want or need to be sucked into it. I honestly do not mean any offense to anyone of any faith. I myself am just agnostic, and if that ever will change, I will decide on my own, but I doubt it will. She got a job 2 years ago overseas. I acted excited for her, and I was, but I was also deeply devastated. Without her, I had no one else. By this time, I wasn't on contact much with family, and I do have surface-level friends, but no one that knows me in the real sense. I worked it out with my counselor and just carried on. We stayed in touch online and video chatted a lot. She would show me London and I would show her my transition to moving to Texas. We would chronicle our explorations of our new cities, and then one day it started to slow down on her end, right around the time she went to visit a friend in our old college town. She then asked if she flew to Texas sometime this summer. Could she stay with me a few days? And I excitedly agreed. So early this month, just a few weeks ago, she came here. She was off the whole first day, but I figured she was tired. Then the next day, we went out and got drunk. She started to cry, and I got us an Uber back to my place and asked her what was wrong. That's when she asked me not to hate her and told me everything. She's with Trent. She's been with him almost a year. I was too stunned to even say anything, and she went on and on about how it's not what I think and he has changed. She told me he found Jesus and turned his life around and deeply regrets the way he treated me. The more she talked, the more I just shut off. I didn't even have it in me to feel anger. I just stared at her frozen as she talked until she said, "Please just say something." So I did. I told her to get the fuck out. She started to explain it all again. She hated him forever, but they kept running into each other. He went to church and showed he is changed, blah-de-blah-de-blah. I didn't interrupt her, but when she stopped talking again, I just repeated myself. She argued more, and I would just listen and repeat until she grabbed her stuff and left. It was silent between us for a week until my dad texted me that Tammy called my parents crying and told me to get over myself. After all, it's not like I wanted to get back with him, right? And that's what I get for living with a man I wasn't married to. Then she texted the next week rehashing her argument and pretty much demanding I video chat with him to see for myself that he's changed and forgive him. She then blamed me that they can't take the next steps in their relationship because I don't have a forgiving heart and that I was malicious when I kicked her out. I've spent all of this week trying to figure out if I am insane to think this is a huge betrayal, a deal breaker. I mean, who even dates their friend's ex, for one? But this. I blocked her after she hinted that my version of things was exaggerated and malicious, but I don't have other friends to turn to about this. I don't think I am, but and her family thinks I am at least for kicking her out in a strange city alone, when she was just being honest with me. Am I? Relevant comments. Commenter. Your so-called best friend is playing you for a fool, and you gotta call it like it is. A hot mess wrapped in betrayal. Dating your abuser? Girl, that's not just crossing a line. It's leaping over it with no look back. Kicking her out wasn't just right. It was necessary. You don't need that kind of disrespect and trauma reopening nonsense in your life. And her trying to preach about forgiveness? That's her trying to wash her own guilt away, not about helping you heal. Listen here. Don't you dare feel bad for putting yourself first. You ain't no rehabilitation center for poorly raised folks pretending to be friends. Cut her off, cut that noise off, and don't you look back. You're not the crazy one here. She and anyone who's siding with her are. You keep that head high and that door shut to toxic messes like that. Commenter. Cut her off and cut your damn family off, OP. They are siding with your abuser instead of their own damn daughter. They are not a family to you. You are worse with them in your life. You will make new friends. These people are all toxic and are just going to keep hurting you. Rip off the Band-Aid. Get rid of all of them. Story 2. Eta, for telling my older sister, who's actually my bio mom, that she's not my daughter's grandma. Hi, 31F. Here, I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Oliver, and am 7 months pregnant with our first child, a little girl. The pregnancy has gone smoothly so far, but unfortunately, it's brought up some pretty intense feelings from some of my relatives. My bio mom, Christy, actually gave birth to me when she was only 17 years old. My bio grandparents adopted me and treated me like one of their own children. For years, I thought Christy and that her 2 older brothers were my siblings and that I was a surprise baby. I wasn't close to Christy growing up because she moved across the country for college and stayed there after she graduated. She did visit for holidays, but I noticed from a young age that she didn't take much of an interest in me and seemed pretty distant. My brothers always did things with me when they were home and even invited me to visit them when I was old enough, but Christy never made any effort to get to know me. I don't think we ever did anything, just the 2 of us, for my entire childhood. Christy is now married and has 2 teenage sons, I think 15 and 17 now, and I also never got to know them outside of family events. I found out Christy was my bio mom my junior year of high school, and I was shocked to say the least. My parents explained that she loves me very much, but she was too young to be a mother when she had me. They also said my bio father was several years older and abusive towards her. I haven't asked for any other details about this and don't particularly want to know. I'll preface this by saying that I'm extremely grateful to Christy for allowing my grandparents to adopt me, especially considering how hard it must have been for her to see her biological daughter at family events and be reminded of what she went through at such a young age. After I learned that she was my mother, our relationship didn't change much, but it did explain why she always kept her distance from me. Sadly, my mother, bio grandma, passed away around 2 years ago. It was devastating because she was the person I called every day and was the best mom growing up. I had a long talk with Christy when she came to town for the funeral. It was the first time we had a conversation about the fact that she's my bio mom, and she expressed that she would like to get to know me better. I actually visited her shortly after the funeral for a week, and we had some very serious talks. She told me that she always loved me, but it was painful having to give me up, which is why she kept her distance for so many years. She also said she wants to get to know me better and is in a place in her life where we can have a real relationship. I was excited about this, and we've been speaking much more than we ever have, i.e., sending text message and phone calls occasionally over the last few years. I love Christy and am happy we're building a relationship, but the truth is, I'll never see her as my mother. In my heart, my mother is gone, and the best I can hope for with Christy is that I'll finally develop a relationship with my older sister. However, lately, it seems like Christy wants more from our relationship. Ever since I told her about the pregnancy, I've noticed she's been calling me even more. She's given me a lot of advice and gifts, and just wants to be involved with the pregnancy. I was happy about this initially, and I thought we were we're on the same page that she's my daughter's aunt. But I realized we view her role a bit differently in a phone call we had over the weekend. Out of the blue, Christy asked me I wanted her to fly out to help when I have the baby. I told her that's so sweet, but I should be okay. I said I'd like her to visit when the baby is a few months old after I've gotten settled. She mentioned how our mother was there when she had her sons, i.e. being in the delivery room and staying for a few weeks after they were born, and said she wanted me to have the same support. I mentioned that my mother-in-law, who I've known since high school and am close with, is going to be in the delivery room and is going to help us get settled when the baby is born. I truly didn't think this would offend Christy since we've never had a close relationship, but apparently it did, because she called me a few hours later and said she was sad I wasn't including her more in the birth of my child. I said I didn't think she'd be offended because she's busy raising 2 teenage boys, and I didn't think we had the type of relationship where she'd expect or even want to be involved with these things. Christy then said that my daughter is her granddaughter, and she wants to be involved to the same extent as my mother-in-law. This completely shocked me. I told Christy that she's my daughter's aunt, and she said we both know that's not true. I explained to her that I view her as my older sister and not my mother, and so they makes her an aunt. Christy said that we didn't get a chance to have a mother-daughter relationship because of the circumstances, and she doesn't see why she can't be a grandmother to my daughter. I told her I want her to be close with my daughter, and that I'll do what I can to help facilitate that relationship. But since I don't see her as my mom, I don't feel comfortable with her being in the delivery room or being at my house immediately after the baby is born to help out. Christy said she understood, but I could tell she was crying and said she had to go. I got a phone call from my older brother Christopher earlier today, and he said he wasn't supposed to tell me this, but I was breaking Christy's heart. He said that she went through a lot to have me and for me to have a happy life with our family. He asked why I can't include her in the birth of my child and let her be a grandma to my child. I told him that I'm grateful to Christy for everything, but it feels like she's using my baby as a do-over because we didn't have a close relationship. I told Christopher if I had to choose a sibling to be in the delivery room, it would be him because we were close growing up and had an actual relationship. Christopher thinks I'm being unnecessarily mean, but I truly just don't see Christy as my mom and don't need her to do motherly things for me now that I'm having a baby. It's also hurtful that she's so keen on having this close relationship with my daughter when for most of my life she never made an effort to have even a sisterly relationship with me. I want to continue building our relationship and am happy with the progress we're making, but also this isn't something that's going to happen overnight just because I'm having a baby. Any advice on how to navigate this would be appreciated. Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. But this, right here, this is really the heart of it. She kept her distance for whatever reason, but didn't try at all for any type of relationship, regardless of her reasoning. Perhaps if she had and y'all had gotten close as siblings, when you found out the truth, then who knows, you might have felt differently. That's not what happened. This is your life now. Also, it's not like you closed yourself off entirely to have a relationship with her. If anything, her pain is hers to bear, and in my opinion, she should be grateful that she's getting the opportunity to be involved in either of your lives at all, in whatever capacity. OP. Yeah, that probably would get me into trouble. Commenter. Some trouble is worth it, some isn't. I think they need to hear this from your perspective to understand just how inappropriate her request is. OP. Yes, that's fair. I know she kept her distance because it was hard for her and probably to not complicate things for me as well, but I can't flip a switch and see her as my baby's grandma suddenly. Commenter. So it sounds like your parents and brothers respected her emotional needs when things were difficult for her. So I would ask why you don't deserve the same respect. She was allowed to define the relationship when it was best for her. You are allowed to do the same. Commenter. Frankly, how hard it was for her doesn't matter. You were the child in this scenario. She was the parent. You were adopted. She made the right choice for you and then emotionally abandoned you. Just because she is ready now doesn't mean she gets to swan in at the end. The only person whose opinion matters is yours. You're a person, not a coat she can put away until she's ready to wear it. Your brother also needs to stay out of it. Him trying to bully you into doing what's right for Christy is just wrong and is causing you stress you should not be under whilst pregnant. What needs to happen is what's right for you. Genetically, she's your mother, but that's it. Emotionally, mentally, and legally, she's your aunt. If she can't get on board with that, then she can't be in your life. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.